Tammy Miser lost her brother, Sean Boone, in 2003 in an explosion at the Hayes Lemaire's cast aluminum automotive wheel manufacturing plant in Huntington, Indiana. Ms. Miser is the founder of the United Support and Memorial for Workplace Fatalities, an organization that provides support memorials and awareness to families of workers killed on the job. She was a winner of the 2007 Tony Misaki Award from the occupational section of the American Public Health Association.
My brother Sean Boone and two co-workers went in to relight a chip melt furnace, and they decided to stick around a few minutes just to make sure that everything was okay. And Sean's back was towards the furnace when they were picking up their tools, and there was a blast. Some say Sean got up and started walking towards the door, and then there was a second, more intense blast. Sean didn't die instantly. He laid on the building floor while the aluminum dust burnt through his flesh and muscle tissue. The breaths that he took burnt his internal organs, and the blast took his eyesight. Sean was still conscious and asking for help. Hayes never bothered to call the family and let us know that Sean was injured or that there was any kind of explosion at all. We received a call from a friend of my husband, Mark's, and he told us that Sean was on his way to Fort Wayne. When Mark reached the hospital where they had all been transferred, she asked if Sean was there. Well, they had an unidentified white male there, so nobody had even bothered to identify who my brother was. The only way he was identified by his apparent body weight and structure, because he had no body hair and no physical markings to identify. We drove 5 hours that night, hoping and praying it wasn't my brother. Sorry. This still brings about guilt, because I wouldn't wish this on anybody. We arrived, and the on-site pastor told us to prepare ourselves, because he hadn't seen anything like that since the war. And the doctors told us that they weren't going to bandage him. They refused treatment because they said that even if they took his limbs, his internal organs were burned beyond repair. And that was pretty apparent by the black sludge they were pumping out of his body. I went in to see my brother, and maybe somebody that didn't know him wouldn't recognize him, but he still had some remnants of his eyebrows, his red eyebrows on, and he also had the same face. It was splitting and a little swollen, but he was still my bub. Our family immediately started talking about taking him off of life support, and if we'd agreed to do this, we had ultimately given up on my brother. It would mean that we were taking his last breath. And even though we weren't to blame, we were still making that decision. And we did. We watched the machine stop, and we watched my brother die before our eyes. We watched him take his last breath. And the two things that I can always remember and that never leave are his last words, "I'm in a world of hurt," and his last breaths. I truly feel for these families at the Imperial Sugar plant. All of them that have had horrible injuries and deaths, because I know where they are, and I know where they've been, and I know where they're going. I'm really disgusted and I'm hurt. It's the same hurt I felt when my brother was killed, because this information was out there, and it could have saved him. And it could have saved these people at the Imperial Sugar plant. Everybody knows what caused this explosion, and it would have been nice to prevent it. We know it's feasible, and it's beyond negligent to expect companies to do this on a voluntary basis. I really strongly believe in OSHA, and I believe it's necessary, but only if it's working. And I felt that in this case it's failed, and it's really failed miserably. Not only have they failed these families, but the previous ones. I followed the chemical board study, and I came up for that hearing. And I was really excited, because I really thought with them giving recommendations something would be done. I thought finally something would be done. But the only thing that did result in that was a bulletin on the combustible dust. And at the very beginning, the first things that it says in this safety and health information bulletin is not a standard or regulation. It creates no legal obligations. And I don't see how this can be expected to be taken seriously when they're sitting there telling them right off the bat that there's really no legal obligation for this. I remain hurt and angry at the lack of compassion by the corporations and OSHA, because no matter how much time goes by, the pain never goes away. It never fades, and the incident never dies. Our losses are a lifelong, needless sentence because a few people couldn't or wouldn't do what was right. And in conclusion, I would ask you to please support this bill for combustible dust. Thank you.